Well, this is about essay number 4. Essay number 4 is the essay that is going to be dealing with the open letter. And understanding a little bit about what open letters are about is probably helpful in many ways. Writing letters has become sort of a lost art or something that not a lot of people do. In the old days and uh, historically, in terms of writing, letter writing was a big part of a curriculum. A lot of people had to learn to write letters because if you think about it, much of what we do in personal life and in business as well has to do with writing letters. And this is still true. If you take a business writing course, of course, you will be writing quite a few letters, I'm sure. Um, Letters to introduce yourself. You'll be writing letters for your um, job applications as introductions, and to very often to persuade people to do things. You'll be writing letters. So even though it's something that very often isn't taught formally in a composition class, it does have an important place, and that place comes through the idea of an open letter. Uh, Open letters are letters that are written to specific individuals or a specific group and or group of individuals in order to say something to a larger and more public audience. Probably one of the best examples of that recently has been the letter of the Republican senator written to the people in Iran and then published in a newspaper. It was addressed to the people in Iran, but however, it was read by everybody, and therefore had an impact beyond just writing to those people. So this one is about the assignment is write an open letter in which you use a work of fiction, literary, nonfiction, or a poem or poems in the Survive and Thrive anthology to address an issue that concerns you, your family, and or your friends. Um, you're asked to write a 1,000 word approximately open letter. Um, One example might be that is that you could write to the author and address those issues which you thought were important in the poems or the literature or the piece of nonfiction. You could write, for example, an open letter to Frankie Condon and talk to her about her relationship with her mother. Other people reading this would begin to understand that their own relationships with her mother and other family members has some of the same qualities and is important in that way as well. Um, Wikipedia, as I said, as I mentioned before, has a number of excellent uh, definitions of these sorts of things. The open letter is, as they say, is intended to be read by a wide audience, or a letter intended for an individual, but is nonetheless widely distributed intentionally. Um, you can think of letters to the editor, I think, in the newspaper as a sort of thing. Um, so um, this is something that is done quite often and allows you to speak to a wider audience as you sort of envision yourself talking to a smaller one. In many ways, it's moving through this motion we talk about private information, personal information, and then public information. You are not required nor particularly encouraged to write about highly private information. Private information, I think, is that kind of information where you might want to talk about it with one other person, maybe two, and maybe you would doubt writing about that. Very often, though, you'll find yourself writing about somebody else and talking about your own situation, uh, in which your private information is involved in talking about somebody else's situation. Um, I'm trying to think of a really good example off the top of my head, but one of them might be if we go back to Frankie Condon, as I might write about Frankie Condon's situation. I would be talking by proxy or through her situation about things that I have experienced with my own family that I may feel is highly private. And it allows me to do so uh, in a personal and public way. So this negotiating of private, um, public, and personal information back and forth is very important in writing in the medical humanities and narrative as medicine. So you want to write about a letter to someone such as somebody in your family, or somebody who's close to you. I think that that's the way it becomes authentic, is that you're engaged in a relationship in some way with the people you're writing about. Um, there are some helps for you in terms of examples that your peers and students have written in D2L under content. uh, Essay examples. It's under essay examples, and there are examples there of all the various essays we've been writing. But I think with a private letter, I mean the open letter, since it's not private, just gives you a way of understanding how other people have managed this sort of situation. So, if we get down to it, we look at the checklist. Um, you're going to work with one of the pieces in Survive and Thrive anthology. You're going to write about a relationship that's important to you, and you can find a little more information on what is authentic, whole, and empathetic in the syllabus, where I've talked about the criteria for assessing this kind of writing. You'll know that you don't want to have a lot of distracting usage errors, of course, as usual, and you will cite your sources. Um, Again, demonstrating that you can integrate your writing in the writing of others. So I think this assignment has been very interesting for a lot of people and very a good way to understand how people are persuaded by the actions of others. There's a kind of rhetoric called uh, it's epideictic rhetoric, in which you write about praise and blame of people, and that is a way of offering examples to other human beings about what it is to be human and how we might best uh, uh, conduct our lives. So, in many ways, this is a chance to do that sort of thing as well with this letter. So, I'm looking forward to reading them, and I do hope you will have these into us soon. There, it's already set up. The Dropbox is already set up in D2L. Take care.